Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something intense. Uh, Emotional control, non-reactivity, and basically mastering those personal triggers.
Yeah, we're looking at sources that really challenge how we usually think about conflict. They suggest, that real freedom comes when you become, well, impossible to offend.
It's about turning that external stuff, criticism or whatever, into fuel for internal growth. That's the mission here.
It is. We're aiming to build, like, an unshakable mindset.
Okay, but we have to start with this core idea because
Yeah.
it's pretty provocative.
Mm.
I mean, the statement is essentially, if someone bothers you, if their words or actions get under your skin, it's ultimately your fault.
That's the kicker. The idea is that the person who gets offended isn't really in control of their own mind, their own emotional state.
That sounds really tough to swallow. It requires immediate pushback, right?
It does. It feels counterintuitive. If someone genuinely insults you, how is that your fault?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like if someone in the street just, I don't know, bumps into you deliberately and curses you out, that humiliation, that anger, that's my fault.
Well, the sources aren't really talking about that first, microsecond flash of emotion. That's just human.
Okay.
They're focused on the lingering reaction, the part you carry around maybe for hours, maybe even days. That's where the fault lies, according to this view. It's about giving that moment, that person who's probably long gone, the power to keep dictating how you feel.
Ah, I see. So the fault isn't the initial feeling, but letting it stick around and control you.
Precisely. You've basically handed over the remote control to your own internal state. If some random external thing can just own your mood, your thoughts, well, you're not truly autonomous, are you?
Right. The goal then becomes building yourself up so you can just acknowledge the jab, maybe feel it for a second, but then immediately let it go because it doesn't actually mean anything fundamental about you.
That's the objective, yeah. Building someone unshakable. And the starting point, based on this material, is really looking at the trigger differently.
Okay, how so? Usually we think being triggered is bad, a weakness.
Right, but this philosophy flips that. It sees the trigger as a gift, not a flaw, but a really crucial learning moment. It's like a flag, or even better, a powerful spotlight
A spotlight? On what?
on the exact spot inside you where you're not yet free, not yet fully secure. It shows you where the work needs to be done.
I like that reframe. It makes it less about pain and more about diagnosis. Like, okay, here's an area to look at. The material even says being triggered is better than any book for self-knowledge.
It really emphasizes that direct experience. But then the question is, why does something seemingly small, maybe a comment from a coworker, hit so hard?
Yeah, what's the connection?
It's because the external thing, the words, the tone, whatever, isn't really about that coworker in that moment. It's acting like that spotlight, hitting an old insecurity or maybe an unhealed emotional wound from your past.
So you only get activated if, deep down, some part of you maybe believes what they're saying is true, or if it reminds you of something else.
Exactly. Or if their behavior just mirrors a dynamic you went through years ago, maybe with a parent or someone important.
Okay, so let's take an example. If I consistently get really angry when someone uses a specific condescending tone, even if others don't notice it much, what's really happening?
You're probably reacting to a memory, maybe subconscious, of how a key figure, like a father or mother, used to speak to you. That old pattern, that dynamic, hasn't been fully resolved inside you.
So the person right now is just accidentally pushing that old button,
Pretty much. They become an unwitting messenger, delivering a lesson you haven't quite learned yet.
which leads to this really counterintuitive response the sources suggest.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting back.
You pause. You
Yeah.
step back. And you almost kind of need to mentally give that person a high five and say thank you.
Thank you for showing me where I need to grow. That sounds bizarre in the heat of the moment.
It does sound bizarre.
Yeah.
But the logic is about shifting from defense to analysis. That person, or rather the universe through that person, just highlighted exactly where you need to focus your self-work.
Okay, analysis. How do you do that when you're feeling attacked or hurt?
You need to detach. This is where that out-of-the-jar analogy comes in. It's crucial.
Explain that. How does the out-of-the-jar thing work?
Well, think about it. If you're inside the jar, you can't read the label on the outside, right?
Right. You're too close, immersed in it.
Exactly. If you're drowning in anger or hurt that's being in the jar, you can't objectively observe what's happening. The label is the true situation. What triggered you, why it triggered you, what past wound it touched.
So you need to mentally step outside yourself.
Yes. Take yourself out of the jar.
Yeah.
Look at the situation almost like a third person. Ask, what exactly just happened? What specific words or actions? What part of me is reacting so strongly? why this specific thing does it remind me of something?
Okay, but let's be real. How fast can someone actually do that? Jump out of the jar. Is this like a 3-second trick, or does it take ages?
Huh. Definitely not a 3-second trick at first. It starts as a conscious, maybe even clunky effort. The first 100 times you try, maybe you only manage to get out for half a second before the emotion just pulls you right back in.
Only half a second.
But that half second is huge. It's a win. It's the beginning of building that muscle. It's not about instant enlightenment or forgetting decades of conditioning overnight. It's about practicing prioritizing that analytical perspective over just reacting.
Building a muscle. I like that. It makes it feel achievable over time.
Yeah.
So if we connect this analysis back to why people stay stuck, maybe hold on to grudges for years, if the trigger is the spotlight, what's the prison it's revealing?
The prison. The sources are really clear on this. The prison is that deep, often unconscious need for external validation.
Needing other people to agree with you or say you were right.
Yes. Needing them to validate your feelings, your experience, needing them to confirm you're okay, they were wrong. It's also about the fear of rejection, the fear of not being good enough. Needing that approval from outside is what keeps people chained to feeling bothered.
So if you're relying on anyone else, a partner, parent, boss, friend, to tell you you're worthy, you're fundamentally vulnerable. You're giving them the power to define your self-worth.
You nailed it. You're giving them veto power. Power, real healing happens when you don't need anyone else's confirmation to feel whole. You might choose people, enjoy their company, love them even, but you don't require their approval for your own sense of self.
Which is why this philosophy kind of rejects those common ideas like finding your better half or thinking relationships are strictly 50-50.
Exactly. Why 50-50? If you're only bringing 50%, you're automatically dependent on the other person to complete you. That gives them immense power over your well-being.
So the ideal is?
The ideal state is two 100% whole individuals choosing to be together. Adding up to 200%, you could say. True maturity, true adulthood is defined as that point where your sense of self just doesn't need anyone else's stamp of approval. You know who you are, and that's enough.
And if you reach that state of self-sufficiency,
Yeah.
then what other people think or say about you, especially behind your back, must become, well, almost irrelevant.
It has to. The material uses that really vivid analogy.
Yeah.
If someone talks badly about you when you're not there, it's like,
Oh, the farting in a cave one.
yeah. It's crude but effective. It does absolutely nothing to you. Their judgment, their opinions, the whispers, they happen outside your reality. They only gain weight if you choose to let them in, if you choose to believe them or care about them.
But that only works, that analogy only lands,
Right.
if you've already built up that internal certainty first, right? It's not where you start.
Absolutely. It's a consequence of inner work, not a technique to just adopt. You have to genuinely believe in your own worth first.
So how do we actively build that? We need some practical tools, right? Something to start reprogramming ourselves away from needing that external. Okay.
Definitely. First, you need a mental boundary. One source offers a great mantra for this. Their thoughts are not my business. My truth is mine. Just repeating that can help establish separation.
Their thoughts are not my business. My truth is mine. Okay.
And crucially, like you said, most of this confidence building happens before you get triggered. It's about building self-trust. How? By doing what you say you're going to do. Keep promises to yourself. That way, you learn to trust your own judgment and stop looking outside.
Self-trust is the foundation. Makes sense. But okay, when those triggers inevitably do hit, despite our best efforts, there's a specific technique mentioned, drawn from CBT, right? Cognitive reframing.
Yes, exactly. Cognitive behavioral therapy is all about shifting those ingrained thought patterns that keep us reacting automatically. Cognitive reframing is a core part of that. We can walk through the exercise.
Let's do it. Step 1.
Okay, step 1. Take a moment, maybe later today, and write down the 3 things that most commonly bother you. What criticisms or comments really get under your skin? Maybe it's someone saying you're too much, or judging your choices, or using that specific tone of voice.
Got it. Identify the top 3 triggers. Step 2.
Step 2. Right next to each trigger you wrote down, write the truth you would prefer to believe about yourself in that situation. This is the reframe. You're consciously choosing a new, empowering belief to replace the old default one that makes you vulnerable.
Okay, let's use the examples from the source material. So if the trigger is someone saying you're too much, what's a possible reframe?
The reframe could be, I'm fully expressed as myself. You choose to see their comment not as a valid critique, but maybe as evidence of your own authenticity. You refuse to shrink.
Nice. Okay, what about you're not qualified or you're not good enough? That's a common one.
The reframe, the truth you choose, might be, I don't need external credentials to speak from my own life experience. Or simply, my experience is valid.
And that classic one people use, often when they feel uncomfortable with your growth. You've changed.
Ah, yes. The reframe there needs to be something like, change is proof that I'm evolving. You embrace it. You don't apologize for growth just because it makes someone else uncomfortable.
Okay, so you write these down. Trigger, then preferred truth. But the material says you need to say these reframes out loud. Why is that important?
Because just thinking it is often too passive. Reciting it out loud, especially with energy, is active programming. You're using your voice, your physical energy, to literally start rewiring those neural pathways. You're consciously installing the new belief over the old, often subconscious one you picked up somewhere along the way.
So it's about embodying the new belief.
Exactly. The action step is crucial. Say these new reframes, your chosen truths, out loud with conviction, maybe 10 times each, daily for a while. Force them into your system.
That feels like a really solid toolkit. Okay, so we've built the foundation. We have the reframing tool. Now let's talk about being in the heat of the moment. You're standing on this solid ground of self-trust, and someone still tries to bait you, to pull you into a fight. What's the most powerful move then?
Silence. Hands
Right.
down. When someone is expecting you to argue, to defend yourself, to get flustered, they're essentially trying to suck you into their emotional state, their crazy brain, as one source called it. They want that reaction, that energy.
You want the drama.
They often do. And the one thing people who want that reaction cannot handle is a grounded person who simply doesn't feel the need to engage on that level, who doesn't need to defend themselves.
You just refuse the invitation to their chaos.
Precisely. They throw the jab, you pause, you don't rush to fill the space with justifications or counterattacks. You let the room breathe, as they say. Let the silence do the talking. It can be incredibly powerful, almost deafening to someone expecting a fight.
Silence isn't weakness here.
Not at all. It's the ultimate display of self-control and self-respect. In any conflict, the person who maintains the most control over themselves usually ends up controlling the outcome.
Okay, is there a specific physical action to take? An exit strategy to reinforce that control?
Yes, there's a sequence described. It's simple, but takes practice to do calmly. First, pause. Then, look them directly in the eyes. You're not avoiding the confrontation, you're meeting it, but on your terms.
Okay.
Then, maybe offer just a slight, almost imperceptible smile, not mocking, just centered. And then, decisively, you either walk away or firmly change the subject. That physical act of disengagement without blowing up or getting defensive seals your position. You're showing you won't be drawn in.
It's really important, though, to clarify, this isn't about becoming some cold, emotionless robot
Right.
or just shutting people out completely.
Absolutely not. That's a common misunderstanding. True non-reactivity isn't about being passive or numb. It's actually the pinnacle of mental strength. Someone who can't easily be offended is strong because they have mastered self-regulation.
So it's an active decision.
It's an active decision not to give the other person the emotional payoff they might be seeking, while you remain fully present, fully aware, and fully in control of yourself. You don't have to hate people or cut them off entirely to be unaffected by their negativity. You just need to stop investing your sense of self in their opinions or needing their approval.
Wow. Okay, so this whole deep dive really brings us full circle, doesn't it? From taking radical responsibility for our own emotional state.
Yeah, to seeing triggers not as attacks, but as these incredibly valuable learning flags.
Detaching from that constant, exhausting need for external validation.
And arming ourselves with practical tools like cognitive reframing and the power of grounded silence.
So the core message, really, for you listening, is that the only opinion that truly fundamentally matters is the one you hold of yourself.
That's it. You get to decide. How much weight does someone else's voice actually carry in your life? Are you going to let it offend you, throw you off balance? Or are you going to use it as a prompt to stand even deeper in your own self-belief? That choice is freedom.
You don't owe anyone an explanation for your growth. You don't need to justify who you are becoming. Your evolution is your own business.
And maybe the most powerful, most rebellious act you can commit, especially in a world that often seems to thrive on insecurity and judgment, is to just fully choose yourself. Prioritize your own peace. Keep doing the work. Keep growing into who you genuinely are without shrinking, without asking permission, without needing anyone else to sign off on your existence. That right there is the mark of a truly integrated, powerful adult.